Welcome to Philippine Forex. We're now 2 weeks before Lynn and I go back, and I want to run through the resistance points for you guys. But first to point out a few things to do with the Canuck group of countries, and we will get into that right now. So right out of the gate, before I get on to the US dollar and its cycles, what I want to touch on quickly are the Australia, New Zealand, Canada currencies. Now they don't swing as high and as low, and they have more ripple in them. So they do tend to waver away, but then come back much quicker than what the US dollar does, and the euro. But the good news is right now for the Euro US is there's stability in those two currencies, which is evident by the fact that they are virtually flatlined against each other. Now, you remember when the Euro first came out, it was dramatically different than the US, and that's why it got the lead on how they do the pairs. It's called the Euro US. But the main point is that they have always wanted to get to a point of equalization. The markets were going to drive that in that direction, and that was the bottom line. But to do with the minor currencies right now, as we'll call them, the Euro, the Canadian, the Australian, and New Zealand, all of us have dropped below the threshold, but just barely, which is why any chance you can save your money in your host country now, I am doing that. Now, Lynn and I have already got a couple of years of savings in the Philippines, so we're not worried about that. But we, for sure, will not be sending any money until we go back above 40. That's just how we manage our money, okay? The Great British Pound and the Euro are all sitting just slightly above their thresholds by about a peso or so, roughly. The US is sitting at 55, but let's dive into the US a little bit tighter here, and why some of you guys better start being a little bit more cautious on your speculating of where the US is going to go. History always repeats itself, whether you like it or not, whether you think you're top dog or not. When it comes to this stuff, the cycles always repeat themselves. So here we go with the roughly 20-year, the chart's only 10 years, but it gives you enough reflection there to see the high and low, and the recent 60 that we saw with the US, just slightly less than 60, was a repeat of roughly 25 years ago. They do tend to repeat themselves. So here we're sitting at 55, and a reminder here, guys, sorry, I'll show you the baseline here is 50 for the US dollar, and let's talk about the ripples above and below. Now, we clearly have a resistance point at 55, and that is where we just don't know whether it'll break to the top side or break to the bottom side. Another one is at 52. So brace yourself. With some of our currencies dropping, there's some signs there that may be happening with the US and Euro as well. But time will tell, as always, right? Because it's sitting at that resistance of 55. We do not know whether that is going to move to the top side or move to the bottom side of 55. If it breaks down, it's likely to go straight to 52. That's just how nature works in the Forex market. What else can I say? Okay, let's look at the bottom side of the market for the US dollar. We can see clearly that going back a number of years, 47 is a point that the US dollar wants to hover around, and it tends to chatter away at 47. A longer outlook was 42, and of course it was only about 10 years ago that the US dollar saw 40. So brace yourself, guys. They do repeat themselves, and this is why I keep going on and on about savings. If you grab money now at 55 and save those 5 pesos per thousand that you're getting in your exchange, and you save those 5, when it goes to 47, you can grab 3 pesos from your savings to offset so that you bring it back up to 50, right? That's what our goals are, to flatline so that we do not feel the ripples that happen in our currencies, because It's bad enough having inflation, let alone having currencies running up and down like that. Okay, so there you go, another recap of the US dollar, and a reminder to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, you're hovering really tight. It's not a freak out, run away type thing right now, but if you can get extra money right now and get it here, I would do it. If you've got a buffer sitting in the Philippines, I'd be saving the money and hope that it goes back up again. Depends on how big your buffer is, guys. How long could you run to offset your difference between your savings and where the currencies might go, okay? But again, I'm going to review the the Canadian, Australia, New Zealand next week. And so you can get a better reflection in those three particular currencies because they tend to chatter more. But they don't have these low lows and they don't have these high highs, which makes it a little bit easier for us in managing our money that we send to the Philippines. Later, Gators.